WCBM, Baltimore. And now, The Zoe Show.
Where the cup that holds the blood of Jesus Christ resides forever.
The Holy Grail, Dr. Jones. The chalice used by Christ during the Last Supper. The cup that caught his blood at the crucifixion and was entrusted to Joseph of Arimathea.
The Arthur legend. I've heard this bedtime story before.
Eternal life, Dr. Jones. The gift of youth to whoever drinks from the Grail.
Welcome to the Zoe Show. I'm Zohara Hieronimus again. Science fiction or religious fact? Information is as important to evolution as is free will. I think that's a theme we talk about quite a bit on the Zoe Show. Welcome to the Zoe Show. I'm Zohara Hieronimus. And just as the world learned this week, as we've been speaking of what space scientists have known for decades, that there's water on Mars, one should be asking, why did it take officialdom over a quarter century to announce what the Viking probes revealed in the mid-70s with certainty? Why did it take since the late 1800s to confirm what an Italian astronomer rightly pointed out were canals of water on the planet Mars? I believe it has to do with controlling humanity's perception of itself and its rulers, be they political, medical, scientific, or religious. And just as the Nicene Council obliterated the direct line between practitioner of prayer and God as all that is needed for cosmic consciousness and spiritual healing, many religions edit from their texts over the centuries tools that empower the person and eliminate the need for authoritarian intercessories. Among Christians, there has always been discussion of the 18 missing years of Jesus' life. Some have suggested he did not die on the cross, but in fact lived and traveled in India and elsewhere. Author Edward T. Martin believes that he can prove this theory based on his own adventures in India, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. His book, King of Travelers, Jesus' Lost Years in India, goes a long way to showing just what Jesus may have done, the family he may have raised, the impact he had on other world traditions, and how it's reflected in the present era. Joining us the remainder of the program is author Edward T. Martin, whose book, King of the Travelers, Jesus' Lost Years in India, is a Jonah Publishing 1999 release. Welcome to the Zoe Show, Edward.
Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you for joining us. The last portion of our program, we looked at recent medical evidence of prayer impacting healing, which is certainly something Jesus taught. So explain to us how you got involved in this search for the truth about Jesus.
As a teenager growing up here in Texas, that my family were fundamentalist Christians. They were very dedicated fundamentalist Christians. And as a teenager, as I studied the New Testament, I saw evidence in the New Testament for reincarnation, what I believed was evidence of reincarnation, glimpses here and there, and that when I would ask questions about reincarnation, that I was always rebuffed about that. But I became interested, too, that I would ask the Bible teachers what happened during the missing years from the age of 12 to 30, and I was always rebuffed about that. They never would give an answer.
And so obviously, for those of us that are seekers, we try to fill in the blanks that others can't fill in, or they fill in with what we regard as junk science or junk religion. Now, in reading your book, you served in the Peace Corps in Afghanistan, and I think it a really important ingredient of your odyssey and effort. What did this have to do with your search for Jesus' lost years and other aspects of his life?
You see, I was always very interested in going to India, and the reason I went into the Peace Corps, one of the strong reasons I went into the Peace Corps was because I wanted to visit India, and I originally requested when I volunteered for the Peace Corps to be stationed in India, and the closest they could offer at that time was Afghanistan, which is very close to India, and so that's why I went to Afghanistan, and I wanted to research firsthand, traveling around in my vacation time in India. I wanted to research about, was there evidence about those lost years, the missing 18 years.
Well, and as your book recounts, you then met a man named Mr. Wilson at the American Embassy in Afghanistan, and this was pretty important. So explain to our audience what happened and what it led you to.
Yes, basically what happened was that at the American Embassy Annex at that time there was a bar for expatriates, that is for Americans and others, because Afghanistan is a very strict Muslim country. There is no selling of alcoholic drinks and so on like that. And so one of the few places that Americans and other foreigners, other expatriates living in Afghanistan could go to get a drink was over to the American Embassy Annex at that time. There was a small bar. The bartender was a Pakistani Christian, and Pakistani Christians are required to take Western names, so we knew the bartender as Mr. Wilson. And there was a bottle of beer. It was one day after my teaching work that it had been kind of a hard day, and I went over to the bar and I asked Mr. Wilson about one bottle of beer with the label Murray on the label. It was a beer from Pakistan, and the spelling was M-U-R-R-E-E. I asked him if Murray is named after an Englishman, and he said, "No, Sahib, Murray is named for Mary." I said, "Oh, Mary is a woman from England." He said, "No, Sahib, Mary is mother of Jesus." And I said, "Mary, the mother of Jesus?" I said, "Why would a Pakistani beer, Pakistan is a Muslim country, why would they have a beer named after the mother of Jesus?" And he went on to explain that the reason for that is because the tomb of Mary, the burial place of Mary, the mother of Jesus, is in northern Pakistan. And her tomb, it points east-west in the fashion of Jewish graves. The Muslim graves point north and south. He explained how that for the last 2,000 years, the tomb of Mary has been honored by the Muslims. They never defiled it, and so on, and is still maintained, and so forth. Then came the question that I logically asked: what in the world was why is Mary, the mother of Jesus, buried in northern Pakistan? And then he went on very briefly to say that some people believe that Jesus survived the crucifixion, that he was in a state of near death, and that he survived the crucifixion, and later returned to India. Incidentally, one thing I can tell more about later, if you like, that I found in later years, that there is some evidence that the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea had a second entrance, a back tunnel entrance, and that was the way that Joseph of Arimathea was able to return with healers, friends of Jesus, who were from India and were in Jerusalem at the time.
Well, and you look at anybody who's read Edgar Casey's work, he revealed he did not, from the findings he had as a sleeping prophet, he didn't find that Jesus had been crucified either. And I thought one of the things rather compelling was you refer to a Civil War chaplain named Levi Dowling, and
right.
That impacted your ability to go and look further. Tell us how.
Yes, it's a marvelous book that Levi Dowling wrote. He was a chaplain in the Union Army in the Civil War, very dedicated spiritual man, as I understand. And in the years after the Civil War, he would go into deep meditations between 2 and 6 in the morning, and in those deep meditations, he contacted the same place that Edgar Casey contacted, called the Akasha, the Akashic Records. The Hindus talk about the Akashic Records, and the Hindus basically explain that the Akashic Records are like a giant cosmic tape recorder, which is continually going on. It's on another dimension, close to our dimension in the superfine ethers. The Akashic Records contain every word that has ever been spoken on the earth plane, every thought, every deed, everything that takes place on the earth plane is recorded in the Akashic Records. Levi Dowling, accessing that information over many different times when he went there in deep meditation, that he found material about the teenage years of Jesus, how that Jesus had spent most of those teenage years as a student in India. And
well, I'll tell you what, we have to take a little break. When we come back, we'll talk about what you discovered. The book we're discussing is Edward T. Martin's King of Travelers, Jesus' Lost Years in India. And I remind you, suspend your judgment. Look what you just found out about something that's been known for almost a century or more, about water on Mars. They present it as like it's a big discovery. Well, what if what you've been told is wrong? How would it change the way you live your life or think about yourself?
Do you believe in advancing the independence of people with disabilities? At United Cerebral Palsy, they do. They understand disabilities and create opportunities for children and adults right here in Maryland. United Cerebral Palsy believes in the rights and the dignity of the individual, and they are committed to advancing the independence, productivity, and full citizenship of people with cerebral palsy and other disabilities. UCP is seeking donations of used vehicles. Cars, trucks, and vans will be picked up at the donor's request and towed free. UCP has a wholesale dealer's license issued by the Department of Motor Vehicles and is registered with the Secretary of State as nonprofit. Donations may be tax deductible, and 84 cents of every dollar raised goes directly to their child and adult programs right here in Maryland. For information or to donate a vehicle, please call 1-800-4-WHEELS. 1-800-494-3357. You can really make a difference when you let your wheels turn their wheels. United Cerebral Palsy.
Dodge. Different. Freedom. Question. Everything. New ideas.
At Dodge, we create vehicles that stand apart from the crowd. And now's your chance to save on almost everything. Okay, not Viper.
Not a perfect world.
But you will find savings on just about everything else. Like a generous $2,000 cash allowance on Dodge Grand Caravan.
Cash allowance.
Or choose a $1,500 cash allowance on Dodge Caravan. $1,500. It's the original with features like 7-passenger seating and easy-out roller seats. No wonder Dodge Caravan is the best-selling minivan ever.
Most imitated, most innovative.
And now with up to $2,000 cash allowance, it's easier than ever to get into Caravan.
Big savings.
Just see the friendly Dodge dealer near you. But hurry, because while in a perfect world you'd have all the time you want,
Not a perfect world.
this opportunity to save on almost everything won't last long.
Limited time. Don't wait. Dodge. Different.
Most innovative minivan based on innovation since Caravan's '84 inception.
You can do your part. You can make a difference.
The Patak School, a local nonprofit charitable organization with a 501c3 tax-exempt status, services the Baltimore and Washington area for children with learning disabilities and is looking for used cars or boats on trailers, need not be running, that you're willing to donate. The Patak School will give you a tax-deductible receipt as well as pick up your vehicle within 1 or 2 days of the time you call. Patak's licensed by the Motor Vehicle Administration of Maryland and handles all transactions personally. With your generous donation, you'll be teaching these children how to compensate for their learning disabilities. Please call 410-486-5340 and make your tax-deductible vehicle donation. That number again, 486-5340. 486-5340.
Make a child's future brighter. Help local children in need.
The Patak School thanks you. Is your underground oil tank 15 years or older? Do you have an underground farm tank? You need to call Baystar Environmental Tank Testing at 410-833-8700. A leaking tank will contaminate your property. Have your tank tested today. Call Baystar Environmental Tank Testing. They will safely and easily take care of your problem. Protect your property.
Call Baystar Environmental Tank Testing at 410-833-8700 or visit their website at testatank.com.
At Johnson Funeral Home, the word family is more than just a word. It's the focal point of how they do business. At Johnson Funeral Home, Tim Fosbrink, Heather Hayes, or Neil Coleman will personally sit down with you as a neighbor and as a friend to help ensure that your requests are met in the professional, compassionate, and affordable manner you deserve. Call the one whose family treats your family like family. Johnson Funeral Home on Lock Raven Boulevard in Towson. Call 410-668-2300. Johnson Funeral Home, a proud member of the Independent Funeral Homes of Maryland.
I think the crux of what this information is all about is that 1,700 years ago, tremendous amounts of information disappeared from the open literature that the West had always turned to understand our relationship to one another and to this world and to the cosmos beyond. When that information disappeared, we began to view ourselves and our world very differently. And with the discovery and subsequent translations of ancient libraries, such as the Dead Sea Scrolls, rare manuscripts found in Tibetan libraries and in Egypt, what we're doing is filling in the missing pieces of our understanding of how we relate to the world.
Welcome to the Zoe Show. I'm Zohara Hieronimus. That was Greg Braden, whose book, The Isaiah Effect, looks at manuscripts found in the Tibetan monasteries that record Jewish travelers that took literature like the Dead Sea Scrolls far from the state of Israel to be secure. Well, wandering has always been part of the mystery tradition's obligation to preserve knowledge, given, as you know, from the burning of the Alexandrian library. No wise man ever puts all of their eggs in one basket. It could be Edward T. Martin's job, as one among many who have tried since the birth of Christ to tell the story as it's meant to be told rather than as it's been revised over the centuries. King of Travelers is the title of Ed Martin's book, Jesus' Lost Years in India. You can buy it online at www.jonah-publishing.com. That's JONAH-publishing.com. You can also call 1-888 843-6220. That's 1-888-843-6220. Due to the brevity of our time together, let me ask you, if you could, Ed, to give us the highlights of what you believe occurred during Jesus' lost years and re-clarify for our audience what years of his life you're speaking of.
Yes, we're talking about the years from the age of 12 till the age of 30, and in which the only transitional verse that we have is in the Gospel of Luke, and that verse basically says, "And Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and men." And then he's 30 years old. To put very briefly, what I found is that at the age of about 12 or 13 years after the New Testament passage about Jesus talking with the learned doctors of the law, the Jewish high priest at the feast of the Passover when he disappeared from his parents for a while, that what happened after that was that he basically left home. That is, that Jesus probably wrote a farewell letter to his parents. "Don't worry about me. I'm going to be away for some years. I'm going to be studying. I have to do this. I love you. See you in the future," like that. And that he went away and joined a caravan on its way to India, from Palestine to India. And that he studied, we know the place where he studied in India was the eastern part of India, the state of Orissa, that he was at a place called the Jagannath Temple.
And how do we know that?
Yes, that he was there at the Jagannath Temple for 7 years or more, and that he traveled in many other places in India and also in what is now Nepal and in Tibet.
Now, you had said that we know that. Now, for many of our listeners, they're going, this is nonsense. So for those that believe as you do based on research, tell us why you feel comfortable in saying we know this, that he was in India in these years.
Well, I say we because I'm speaking as researchers, the people that I have done research with, and the people who have investigated about these things. But the written records and the traditions, for example, one of the written documents, earlier there was some mention about documents in Tibet and elsewhere, a written document called The Life of Saint Isa, the Best of the Sons of Men. It's a document that was written in a Tibetan script called Pali, and it was a document that was seen in the 1870s at the Himas Monastery in northwestern India at Leh in Ladakh, northwestern India. It was seen by a traveler named Nicholas Natovich in the 1870s who had broken his leg, been thrown from a horse. He broke his leg, and while he was at the Himas Monastery at Leh, the Buddhist monks showed him that manuscript, The Life of Saint Isa, the Best of the Sons of Men, which was written basically 2,000 years ago, and it was telling about the teenage years of Jesus in India. And he was, even as a teenager, he was an amazing and most remarkable individual. And then what I later found when I was in the Peace Corps in Afghanistan, I found out about the tomb of Mary in northern Pakistan at Murree, and I found out how that there are records that indicate that he returned, many records, many place names of places in the province of Kashmir in northwestern India, that after his mother died on the return to India, she insisted apparently on going with him, and the written document concerning that is called the Talmud of Emmanuel, which basically means the spiritual teachings of Jesus. The Talmud of Emmanuel is a 2,000-year-old document that was discovered in 1963 in Israel by Edward Billy Meyer and Isa Rashid. And the Talmud of Emmanuel, before we finish, I'll be happy to give a website.
Yes, please do. Let's do that now.
Yes, the website for readers to find out about the Talmud of Emmanuel and more information about Jesus in India material is www.proaxis.com and then / Dear Dorj, and that's spelled proaxis.com, /tilde, like the tilde used in Spanish, and then Dear Dorj, DEARDORJ. And that website is the website of a close friend of mine, Dr. Jim Deardorff, who has also written a book about Jesus in India. And Dr. Deardorff is a retired professor of meteorology. He and his wife live in Oregon. Corvallis, Oregon, and Dr. Deerdorf I mentioned the Talmud of Emmanuel, and Dr. Deerdorf is a New Testament scholar. He studied the Talmud of Emmanuel for 7 years with the intention of debunking it, and he came to the opposite conclusion and wrote a book about his research called Celestial Teachings.
And again, let me give out that web address one more time. It's www.proaxis, proaxis.com /tilde, DEARDORJ. There are so many questions I have running through my mind and heart at this moment, but one of them, and I don't know that it's important to you, but it is to me, I've interviewed so many people now from around the world about sacred teachings that impact the Westerners' thinking of themselves and their place in cosmology, that these scriptures are found in Tibet, in the ancient monasteries. How important is Tibet and Tibet's autonomy to our spiritual evolution?
Tibet is a very important place in the world. The Tibetan people have a treasure of spirituality. The spiritual heritage of the Tibetan people, it's a marvelous spiritual heritage. As you know, the Tibetans are Buddhists, and yet the Buddhists are, I would say, very much friends of Christianity, the best of Christian traditions. And in fact, one of the things I tell about in my book is that the Buddhist avatar, a very high soul, was called Avalokitesvara. And Avalokitesvara, there is a lot of evidence that Avalokitesvara, the great Buddhist avatar, was none other than Jesus after the crucifixion.
Well, and you also spoke about this sect near the heart of Afghanistan, Uz Asaf sect?
That's right. That's right. They are near Herat in Afghanistan, and Uz Asaf was one of the other names. That was the main name that Jesus was known by in the years after the crucifixion, which incidentally, that he lived to about the age of 110, and that after Jesus had returned to India, to Kashmir in northwestern India, he got married at about the age of 45 to a lady from India, and they had several children, the oldest of which was named after his surrogate father, Joseph, and that he lived to about the age of 110. And another interesting thing is that Jesus' close neighbor and close lifelong friend, who lived to about the age of 90, was Judas Iscariot. And Judas Iscariot was not the betrayer. The real betrayer of Jesus had an almost identical name, Judah Iscariot. And Judah Iscariot was the son of one of the Jewish high priests named Simeon Iscariot. And it was Judah Iscariot who was the real betrayer. This is information that comes out in the document I told about, the Talmud of Emmanuel.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. I mean, there's way too much information, and if somebody's looking for a great summer book, because the way you've written it is you basically are going along your odyssey, your discovery, your arduous climb up mountains and into mountain caves and into the cities, and, you know, it's just a beautiful book, Edward. It's a great contribution to, I think, a very important area of inquiry. King of Travelers. You're welcome.
I wrote my book to be user-friendly, to be very readable and interesting, to be a good read. And also it has 72 photographs. I took all the photographs. The cover photograph also is a photograph I took near Mount Everest in Nepal.
Well, it's wonderful. We do have to say goodbye, though, for the day. Edward T. Martin's book, King of Travelers, Jesus' Lost Years in India. You can get it from Jonah Publishing, a 1999 release. I hope today's been enjoyable for you. It has for me. Be good to each other. We do need more love in the world.
Do you know what I did today? I bought a container of milk. And that may not seem like a big deal, but I'm on chemotherapy. And until recently, I was too tired to get out of bed, let alone drive to the store. I thought I'd have to live with the fatigue as long as I was on chemo. I was wrong.
Are you a chemotherapy patient? Do you feel tired and weak? You may be anemic. Ask your doctor about Procrit. Procrit is a natural way to regain red blood cells lost during chemotherapy. And more red blood cells can mean more strength. Over 1 million people have been treated with Procrit. It's safe and effective. In trials, only diarrhea and edema occurred more often with Procrit than placebo. Procrit is for patients with non-myeloid cancers and can only be prescribed by your doctor. To learn more, see our ad in Coping Magazine, visit Procrit.com, or call 1-800-695-5780. That's 1-800-695-5780.
This afternoon, I think I'll bake some cookies.